Yeah, I'm doing a second video today. I'll do 7 videos in a day. You think I care? This is what I do. This is what I live for, pal. I don't know why I was so angry right there. But one topic that's been a very hot topic that I really haven't commented on all that much unless you catch my live streams over on the second channel. Make sure you are subscribed, link in the description down below, and make sure you subscribe here to the main channel. Subscribe to all my endeavors. But was the Yuzu and Nintendo situation, the Yuzu emulator for Nintendo Switch. Now, Nintendo was attacking Yuzu, taking them to trial. Take that shit to trial, bitch. Take that shit to trial, bitch. I love that song. Shout outs to the last Mr. Big, R.I.P. Great album, by the way. And, you know, it wasn't looking great for Yuzu just from a standpoint of Nintendo has that FU money and they could pretty much do whatever they want. They could swing around their e-peen and, you know, you can't really fight City Hall. You know, you could try, but you're probably going to end up, you know, homeless on the side of the street because you wasted all your money trying to fight this situation. Well, a big revelation has been made in the Yuzu versus Nintendo situation. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the whole situation because now I feel like it's a good time. I didn't really want to do a knee-jerk sort of reaction to it, the sort of back and forth that we saw over the past couple of days. But here is the latest on the situation. So Nintendo Switch emulator Yuzu will utterly fold and pay $2.4 million to settle its lawsuit. So, yeah. You know, Yuzu had to essentially bend the knee in this situation. It was an uphill battle to begin with. But there were some interesting things within the documentation of this court case that I didn't necessarily like. And there's a bit of a fallout from this situation that we'll continue to talk about probably over the next couple of days. So this is coming to us from The Verge. They did a nice write-up that makes everything nice and easy. Basically, what has happened is that Yuzu, aka Tropic Haze, has not only agreed to pay $2.4 million to Nintendo, but also says Yuzu is primarily designed to circumvent and play Nintendo Switch games. So not only do they have to pay money, but they have to say, hey, this is to play pirated games. And it's like, man, like, I don't know. The company agrees to be permanently enjoined from working on Yuzu, hosting Yuzu, distributing Yuzu code or features, hosting websites, and social media that promotes Yuzu, or doing anything else that circumvents Nintendo's copyright protection. And it will surrender the Yuzu emu.org name to Nintendo, agreed to not only delete its copies of Yuzu, but all circumvention tools used for developing or using Yuzu, such as all these various things that I probably can't say in a proper way, and modify Nintendo hardware stuff. So there's a lot going on here. Yuzu has not actually given a comment, but you could see, you know, how this situation is going and how this situation is. Now, this, of course, brings a litany of different things. So if you remember, one of the main things that Nintendo was complaining about with Yuzu in their court case was the Tears of the Kingdom situation, that over 1 million people played Tears of the Kingdom because of Yuzu, and 1 million more people tried to download it and play it on Yuzu, but it was stopped. First and foremost, that is completely and utterly incorrect. Yuzu did not support Tears of the Kingdom when the game leaked online early. It was Ryujinx that did. So why Nintendo signaled in on Yuzu, it's really up to anyone's guess, but I think the main thing was Yuzu had a very successful Patreon that was bringing in quite a bit of money, whereas Ryujinx didn't do that. There are other Nintendo Switch emulators out there. Yuzu isn't the only one, but I felt like this was a weird thing because it wasn't Yuzu that people were playing Tears of the Kingdom on, it was Ryujinx. And, you know, it's something in like a court case to get something so basic very wrong in this situation. I felt like that was something that Yuzu could have kind of fought back a little bit on and kind of applied pressure to with that situation and been like, hey, this game didn't even work on our emulator. But to me, like, the bigger thing about this is, how did the game get out there to begin with? That's what I want to know, because the fact of the matter is I'm obviously someone who's very in tune with emulation, and I visit all these websites. I'm always up to date on the stuff going on here. With Nintendo first party games, you always, literally always, have the game leak online the same day that review copies go out. Now, there is a small chance that, yes, there is someone in a warehouse out there that just happens to get those games into the warehouse on the same day that the review copies go out there, and then they have a dumper and they dump the game online and then people go crazy. Or it's someone you're giving the codes to that is doing that. And it's a very short list of people that Nintendo gives their codes to. Nintendo works with a lot of different people of different levels. You know, they work with a lot of smaller content creators. They like family content creators, like couples and stuff like that. It's not just like who's a big gun, who has a big subscriber base that gets Nintendo review copies. It's a pretty varied group of people. I don't get any Nintendo review copies, obviously, because they don't like me. And a lot of times they kind of wait, and like even the ambassadors and stuff, they have to wait till like a day before the game. But a lot of other places do get the games substantially early. And it seems like every single time review outlets get these games, the games show up online that same day, or at the very least the next day, depending on the size of the game. So shouldn't that be a bigger focal point for Nintendo to figure out why these games are getting out there more so than the emulator itself? And another thing about this whole situation is, like I talked about before, there's other Nintendo Switch emulators out there. The Yuzu source code is already out there. Like, they can delete the code, but it's the internet. You're not going to fully remove that code from the internet. People already have access to it. People have had access to it because it was an open source sort of thing. It's up on GitHub and stuff like that. So, you know, how much of an impact are you really going to make with a situation like this? You know, who's to say? But really, to me, this was just Nintendo kind of flexing their muscle with the situation. This was pretty much taking what they perceive to be the largest emulator, and it probably is the largest emulator. I just prefer Ryujinx when I'm doing stuff because that's what I was familiar with setting up. I actually have a video on how to set up Ryujinx on this channel, because an emulator itself is still not illegal. It's what you do with the emulator that can make it illegal. You know, it's the whole situation of, you know, who's to blame, the person or, you know, the weapon that they use to stab someone or something like that. Like, you know, and the thing of it is these situations never end up going to trial. They're never really put into trial. There has been stuff like ROM hosting websites and stuff like that. Obviously, the team executioner stuff or executor stuff, you know, that was a different situation. That was selling ROMs essentially, which, yes, that is a very gray area. But we still haven't really seen a situation where an emulator itself gets taken to court and the court case actually happens, because it doesn't get to that point, because Nintendo has the money to stifle these companies. Will this make a big sort of impact when it comes to Nintendo Switch emulation? I honestly don't think so. You know, people might think twice about developing a new emulator, maybe, but there's already emulators out there. This source code is already out there. And Yuzu, you know, they pretty much did what they had to do. Like, you could fight it for a little bit, but after a while, you're not going to be able to do anything like that. And my whole kind of philosophy with emulation, and especially Nintendo Switch emulation, is, and this is just my opinion. I don't want to hear anyone crying in the comments about my opinion. If you disagree with my opinion, that's fine. But a vast majority of people who use modern emulation for stuff, they're not going to buy the game anyways. There's a very they're probably not going to buy the game anyways, regardless of anything. So is that really a loss of a sale? I feel like that's a big gray area, because there has been times where someone like me, I've played a game via emulation and I go and buy the game. I can remember 777 on the Nintendo DS. I emulated that game. I really liked it. They were still selling new copies on Amazon at that time. This was 10 years ago or something like that. And I ended up picking up the game because I really enjoyed it. I wanted to continue to play it. But I realize that I'm a minority in that situation. Most of these people are doing it because they don't want to buy the game. They have no plans on buying the game. The emulation war will always rage on, though. As long as Nintendo's around, it'll always rage on. And there are situations where I feel like Nintendo is just inherently wrong with it. And I feel like there's situations where it is a bit more justified. Is this a situation where it's a bit more justified? On the surface level, you know, who's to say it? But I think the money coming into Yuzu is what created the problem. I think their Patreon is what really put them on the map, made them a big target, and made them the focus of Nintendo's thing. So Yuzu's got to come up with 2.4 million. Hopefully they save some of that Patreon money. Their website's going to go down, and I guess that's the end of this saga, at least for now, because now will Nintendo go after other emulators for the Nintendo Switch? I mean, you could make really strong hardware and then, you know, PC, like you don't see that with PS5 stuff. You don't see that with Xbox stuff. I mean, obviously, that's a joke, but better encryption definitely needs to be something that Nintendo has to realize that, hey, we need to make this harder for people. We need to make this more difficult because people were emulating Switch games very early into the Nintendo Switch's life cycle with performance enhancements and stuff like that. 60 frames per second on Breath of the Wild. Hey, you know, hey, it is what it is. Let me know what you think of this situation in the comment section down below. Did Yuzu ever have a chance? Because, I mean, really, they didn't. Nintendo was just going to smoke them out and, you know, be like, oh, you want another here? Throw another million into this court case. We could do it. Who cares? This is FU money. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. I am the king of emulation, YouTube. This is not a Nintendo video. It is an emulation video. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Go watch the other one from earlier today. Later.